Merry Christmas, everyone, or Boxing Day, depending on when this goes out. We did a tier list video which we dropped on Christmas Eve, and today we're going to take a look at the most recent legendary heroes that dropped in Simon's video. And I'm going to make a hero tier list on units I think that players should be picking. Now, once again, this is my personal opinion and based on just my experience from other games and all that. We're also going to try and pull for the ones that I'm hunting for. And if we don't get it, we're going to pause the recording and wait for the other 60 to come in on Christmas night and then continue from there. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Hello there everyone, Ragewood here, back with another Godforge video. And yes, as you can see, I have 170 summons to do. We're going to try and hunt down some of the units I'm looking for, or that I think you should be picking, and then I will go through a little tier list, if you will, of units I think players should be looking out for. Now, we'll come to that in a moment, and the boring chat. Let's see if we can get another legendary in these 170, and if not, we will come back. Also, I am very much aware I am not being optimal, but I have been out all day, so yeah, figured I do this, I don't have to worry about it. Let's summon! Here we go. Ooh, 2 epics off rip. Then a bunch of rares. Shishi, my boy, bestest boy. Triple epics there, crikey. Odysseus, don't know much about him, but another cool unit, and a trailer for the film is out now. So there is that. Bran, Gozu, some more cool looking units, but not a legendary that we are looking for. Nothing there. Come on, game. Another 3 epic pull. We can't complain with the epic rates. Truth be told. Let's do 110 left. Not quite halfway. Although we are... Oh, Loki. Loki has been changed recently. And I know what his kit is. Could be very good for Arena. But it's not following the philosophy that I'm going to tell you guys to go for. So we're letting Loki go. He is a disruptor. Okay, so we're coming up to halfway through now. Double epics. Over halfway. Can we get another one? Can we get this one of the specific ones that I'm looking for? More epics. I think the one that I would really like is my imaginary girlfriend, Vivienne. Oh! Ooh. Right. Now I'm gonna take this, even though it goes against everything that I'm gonna tell you guys. Mainly on vibes and cool stuff alone. I'm gonna give up a defender and support unit and take Ares. But we're still gonna summon the last 30. And that is us done. So there we go. I have a new legendary. We saw 2 legendaries in that 170 that we had. Okay, so we are a couple hours later. And we're going to try again. Now we've got our new 60. Nothing. Oh, 5 epics. Crikey. Not what we're wanting now. I'm looking for my girlfriend, Vivienne. Twenty more. Cizin. Cizin or Ares? That's a tough choice. Again, because we don't know anything about them. Oh, I say that. We do know about Cizin, because we saw him in Simon's video. No. I guess it doesn't really matter, because again, I know who I'm looking for. So right, that's that out the way. I must stress, this is going to be a very long video, but I will put timestamps to everything. Okay, so let's crack on then, shall we? As if by magic, we're here. So here is my tier list. I actually recorded this Christmas Eve night, and I've slept on it, I've had another think, and I've moved some stuff around first thing this morning, hence the bed hair and the shirt looking a little bit of a mess. Don't at me. I don't do anything on Christmas, so there we go. With all that being said, I'm pretty happy now with where I'm at. One thing I will say, you'll notice something already at the top, right? I value supports and defenders, tanks, more than out-and-out damage dealers early. And I think this is true for a lot of players who are either free-to-play or low spenders. Why is that? Well, our starter is a damage dealer. From doing lots of HH free-to-play challenges and various other things like that, you're generally better off like either like enabling your starter or helping them survive than getting a second damage unit, because when you get to those crunch points, just having more damage sometimes isn't enough. You need someone with utility, a healer, someone who can bring attack down, something like that to push on. If you can keep your starter alive, generally you can push through. You might not be able to speed run it, but I'm not looking at speed running things, I'm just looking at getting through it. So this is say more targeted at low spenders, free to play players. I say low spenders, non-spenders. Okay. If you are a spender and a high spender at that, you don't necessarily need to follow this, because you will just pull enough shards to get a top tier support and then be able to push on from there. In which case, you might want to go for what I and a few other people consider to be the best damage dealer, which is Wukong here. Okay. So take this with a pinch of salt. All right. But yeah, for non-spenders, I believe this is the avenue to go down, prioritizing a top support. And I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I assume a lot of my fellow CCs and just experienced players agree with me. So, having said all of that, let's go through it all. Okay. Starting at the top here, Heimdall. Probably the most complete unit of Alpha, maybe. He does an awful lot, all right? Shield, retaliate, ally protect, buff deflection as well, if I'm not mistaken, on his passive. He does a heck of a lot. And you can talk to many people on who they believe the de facto number one is. I am personally so torn sort of on this top row, particularly these three, maybe four on the de facto number one, because they all bring something different. So if you're getting any of these, you're not going to be grumpy with. But I have put him here as number one for the time being, because I believe he'll be the most useful for most people. Solid unit, you're not going to grumble. Defense aura as well, so just going to help there too. Quetzalcoatl, another incredible unit. As of Alpha, I think has the highest speed lead aura in the game. He brings heals. He brings a petrify on his skill one. He brings turn meter boost. His ultimate places attack up, sharpen, and accuracy. When his divinity meter fills, he then fills the next closest person up, if I'm not mistaken. Something along those lines. He is an absolute boss. And I personally value him over Isis, mainly for the speed lead, more than anything else. He does have a res. It is a situational res, i.e., he has to die and then he will resurrect certain units. So it is, I say, situational, which is not as good as the out and out res that Isis brings. But for me personally, I value the turn meter push and the speed lead more from a PvP perspective, personally. I think Isis goes into the sort of de facto out and out go second comp with an Horus and a Heimdall, the three of them. It's going to be a while till we get those, and we can't get Horus in this event. So, yeah. Speaking of Isis, then, Isis is here. She places a shield on her core, which then gives her an extra turn. Her basic has buff spread and mend, if I'm not mistaken, and then her ultimate is a resurrection. Very solid unit. Just double check. The mend is on Awaken 1. Might not get Awaken 1. But she does have buff still into her basic, and her res gives 50% turn meter. So, having said all that, still a very, very good unit. And yeah, I've put her at number 3 in this list. Number 4 is Vivienne, and this is the one that I personally am trying to target. Mainly because I'm absolutely certain that she's based on Serena Bell, and Serena Bell is a babe. That's the first reason. From what we know about Vivienne's kit, she's placing attack up and defense up on the core, which are just two very good, very solid buffs to have. Not only that, she then extends the duration of buffs too, baked into a core. Very good, especially if you just happen to have someone else on the team as well that have buffs, be it a Quetzalcoatl, be it an Isolde who's placing men's on basic. She's just universally good in a lot of areas. And then her ultimate strips all disables. If they're Avalon as well, it will remove all debuffs too. That bit's a little bit situational, but as I've just mentioned, Isolde was a very good unit we all leaned heavily on. Is an Avalon character. She then has an ally attack, which we know how good that is. And if the target is defeated, you then increase the turn meter of all allies again. Very good unit. And then she gains divinity when placing a buff on an ally. Super, super solid. And then her passive. Now, Simon didn't show this, but what we have had access to are the imprints. And the imprint says, I'll throw it up on screen quick, is that basic attacks do more damage, and this is doubled when joining an attack. So that is the weakened version. So the stronger version, like, she's not a damage dealer herself, so it wouldn't make sense that this hero has 20% basic damage increase, doubled when joining ally attacks, because she is the one doing the ally attack. So I wonder, it's either going to be, say, 20% rather than 10, or hers say allies do more damage. If that's the case, she is silly. That ally attack becomes silly as well. You're just increasing the damage, and it would pair incredibly well with a Wukong if you managed to get them both. Holy moly. But yeah. So she's who I am targeting. She's very good, and that is why she is up here. So for me personally, this is my order that I'm looking for. And then lastly, Shamash. Now, Shamash fell off a little bit when his ultimate was tweaked in the alpha. His ultimate used to place a barrier, and you could get to a point where you could stack the barrier infinitely, kind of like Brogni or Wixwell comps in Raid, for those of you who are familiar. They changed it to just a shield, so it can't stack. But having said that, joint attack on basic. His core was a full team joint attack which placed Aetherburn. His ultimate was a res that placed Radiance, attack, and the shield. And the first time someone on your team died, you would cast the ultimate straight away and it wouldn't put it on cooldown. That is still nutty, and I think it's flying under the radar for a lot of people still. Like, I spend a lot of time in the Discord and I'm not seeing him on top of many people's lists or up there. And just because he was nerfed doesn't make him bad. So I still think he is an incredible pick. And in my sort of top 5, albeit number 5. As I say, these are all support units up here. Heimdall more of a tank. But that is who I believe most people should be picking with this event. Moving down to something to think about. So some of us might not get any of these, and if that's the case, so be it. Don't be disappointed. Any legendary is going to be good early on. Wukong is probably the only damage dealer that I would put up here. But just from the starts I'm taking and what I'm advising sort of people, I'm not putting him up there, even though you could argue he should be. And what does Wukong do? He was a part of a CC leak, so we know his entire kit. His basic increases his divinity, and if he uses his basic as part of a joint attack, the divinity that he gains is also increased. He can also, is it either steal a buff or mirror a buff, something like that. It's just very strong basic right there. His core gives him attack up for 2 turns, then he attacks all enemies, and the damage increases based on the number of buffs that he has. So you can just scale that quite significantly. If you've got a support unit with an Excalibur as well, you're sort of doubling up there as well, because the Excalibur's giving the damage bonus, and he's got more buffs on him, so he's scaling that way too, which I think is very good. I've seen a few people talk about Namsaru on him, but in doing that, you're sort of negating his core. Personally, I think taking out half the kit for Namsaru, I wouldn't put that on him, personally. That's just me. Then his ultimate is like an 8-hitter, which heals him and steals turn meter. Like, that's just strong, especially in single target fights where there's only one target, you're just going to hit someone 8 times. And then his passive, we've seen from the imprint, but also just from the CC leaks. Like, he gains Immortal when he dies, and he also has a 50% chance just to join attacks anyway. Like, it is incredible what Sun Wukong can do. And, we don't know the entire kit of Artemis. We're just sort of missing the full passive and the basic. And while she's good, I don't think anyone really comes close to Wukong. So yeah, top damage dealer. And if you're a spender, and as I say, you're going to just sort of buy your way to one of these, he would be the one that I would pick. Moving on to Grendel then. Now, Grendel is exciting. His core just places a disable and attacks all enemies. Which is very good, just very nice generally. His ultimate is another AoE, and after attacking, he will just execute people below 20% HP. This is good in arena as well as wave content, but more so arena. He's going to be very strong. Doesn't work on bosses, but it doesn't matter. You're also going to increase his max HP each time an enemy is defeated. And yeah, it's silly. His divinity generator, got on my other screen, he gains 40 when he's just damaging an enemy. So getting AoE, he's just gaining a lot as well. This is very, very strong. And we have seen his imprint as well. His imprint says for every 20% HP he's missing, you increase the speed and initiative by 5%. Now, again, that's the imprint, that's the weakened version. So I imagine the stronger version is probably 10% speed and initiative for every 20% HP he's missing. So the weaker he gets, the more like he's going to get his turn round to ult again and increase his max HP pool. And I wonder if, because you're not healing, if you're increasing your max HP pool, if let's say you cast 4 ultimates, you've essentially extended your max HP by 20%, but then you're kind of like missing 20%. So I wonder if you'll get like another proc of the speed and initiative gain. That's the thinking anyway. I think has the potential to be a very strong unit. Now, Anubis was my boy in the alpha. Like, he carried me so much, and just with the despair control that he had to kill someone to do it. He just does it on the core, but this is on a basic. Like, I've been flip-flopping between these two if I had to pick a brawler. They're both very good. But I think for me, just the excitement behind potentially getting something new is just too much. So that's why Grendel is there for me. Next up, we have Athena, a very, very strong legendary unit. Now, we don't know what her basic does, but we did see her core and her ultimate. Now, her core places a shield on everyone that also reduces damage, and that's just good. And then her ultimate is an AoE, and you gain damage each time an ally under a shield is attacked. If you pair her with another shielder and you make her really slow, that ultimate is going to hit incredibly hard. And I've been giggling to myself thinking about this. What if you put an Amsaru on Athena? Now, that is probably not the optimum weapon choice. But think about it. You build her with defense, so she's going to be naturally tanky anyway, so you don't need to worry, per se, about the downside too much that Namsaru brings. Then any kind of buff that's put on her is going to scale her damage because of Namsaru, and then anytime an ally takes damage, she's getting scaling that way as well. She could potentially hit very hard with her ultimate. Now, that is Magical Christmas Land. You'd have to build her high initiative, very slow speed. But I thought it was kind of funny to think about, and a very solid unit to have. And then her passive is whenever an ally under a shield is attacked, she has a chance to place Petrify. The imprint, as you can see on screen, is 35%. So let's just double it. And I mean, you'd say 70. And even if it's not 70, let's say we're conservative, it's only like 50%. Still very solid because it's not just her shield, it's any shield. So again, if you place Athena with a Heimdall, yeah, that's pretty gross. So I thought it was fun, and yeah, she is definitely something to think about. Moving on to Metztli then. Now Metztli is actually a hero that I was given to me, as you saw from the polls in yesterday's video. I say yesterday's video. The video on Christmas Eve, so I don't know when I'm going to finish editing this and put it out. I ended up going with Svarogs for the strong beard game that he had. And no other reason, really. But Metztli, we now know what she does. Her core is a cleanse, both disables and debuffs, and you put resistance up on yourself, which is very nice. It doesn't really do too much if you don't have those, and that marks her down. But what brought her up for me, two things. She is a support, and her ultimate is so good. You revive all allies with 40% HP and turn meter. So not quite as good as Isis, but you also restore any of their destroyed HP and increase their divinity by 20, and she gains 80 divinity when placing a buff on an ally. Now, she's got the res up on her core, and you might think, oh, she's not really doing much else, but her passive imprint, which again you'll see on screen, when she uses an ability, any ability, she has a chance to spread one random buff to allies. Now, let's assume that chance is 50%. It doesn't specify core and ultimate, so even on her basic ability, that's the way I see it, you're going to potentially spread a buff to all allies. So as long as she has something on her, whether it's from her or someone else, she's going to be gaining a lot of divinity that way, especially in like follow-up attack teams and that kind of stuff. And that ultimate is just so strong for me that I kind of had to put her up here into maybe something to think about if you don't get one of these. And let's assume that her basic does something as well, like places a buff of some description, even if it's like a mend. I think it's a good choice. Or at least not the worst choice, put it that way. I'm sort of debating where I put her up and down here, though. Do you know what? Think... I probably put it like that. Maybe put Anubis before her. But yeah, that's Metztli. And she is a support unit as well. So, there you go. Anubis, whilst we're here, we know what Anubis does. He was, as I say, he carried me in the alpha. I never got a Zeus or anything like that. My team was 2 starter champions in Guan Yu and Ramses and Anubis. He is incredible. That despair on his basic attack was really good. The downside is why he's not necessarily a top pick is we got good gear in the alpha a lot quicker than what we should do. So my strategy was to soften people up with my starter, have him come in to control everything, and just rinse and repeat. But I had him built in like a hybrid damage build as well, so he had lots of accuracy, but he could also punch. Like I think I had like 80% crit rate, 200 crit damage, and enough accuracy to land the despair. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get that, which is why he's not necessarily like my top pick. But he is still very strong. Corruption wasn't working as it should in the alpha. So if someone places multiple buffs in one ability, the corruption should have taken them all. It was just taking one. So he gains value there. And then he's just got sustain on his ultimate, which is very nice. And at Awaken 3, you steal divinity when you kill someone. And I also think he's going to be very good with the Huntress weapon. When he places Despair, you reduce the turn meter of the enemy, so you're just getting more value out of that Despair. Very solid unit. Definitely want to be considering if I didn't get any of those. Freya, another new support. Now, for me, Freya is all about her core. Her core is so strong in a PvP setup. I mean, it works in PvE as well. But again, I'll put it on screen just in case you didn't see the video. You equalize one ally's turn meter equal to the enemy with the highest turn meter, and then you boost it. Now, assuming you can target your damage dealer, the way you do it is you have your lead. So let's say it's Quetzalcoatl boosting everyone. Then you have someone with a drop defense on their core. I don't know who that is yet, but let's assume there's someone there. Then you have your damage dealer. Your damage dealer goes, let's say it's Wukong here with his core ability. You kill a couple of people. Freya then uses her core. Wukong's going to go again and finish the job. And that to me seems pretty auto-friendly. Assuming that the way it will work is you'll target the ally with the lowest turn meter, which will be Wukong because he went sort of most recent kind of thing. You then also permanently increase the hero's healing. Now, we've not seen any healing in her kit outside of her passive. And her passive seems a bit strange. So we'll come on to that in a second. But I think that core alone makes her super strong, let's say, in arena setups. Her ultimate places attack up and sharpen, and then attacks an enemy. And then attacks all enemies. So you're targeting one single target once, and then you're hitting everyone. So kind of like 2 hits. And you increase the attack and crit damage of each ally by 10%, stacking up to 6 times. You gain 30 divinity when you heal an ally. Now, her passive says, when this hero inflicts a critical hit, you heal for 1200% initiative. That's the downside to her. So let's assume that you increase the heal she's doing. Like, the weakened part is the amount she's healing. You're going to need to build her with crit and initiative, which seems a bit conflicting, personally. She wants some speed on her to be able to go. So, yeah, how often you're going to get the heal off, I don't know. But let's say you are able to build her with lots of crits. The ultimate, you're gonna, like hit everyone 5 times. So you're gonna be boosting her divinity a little bit. So you're gonna be coming back to that. She's certainly interesting. Definitely requires a lot more to work around. We don't know what the basic does, but definitely for me, something I would consider just for that core alone, but maybe I bring her back here personally. Moving on, Hercules. We know what Hercules does. One of the few AoE basics in the game. He's got a stun on his core, but we're not using him for that. We're just using him for the cleave that he brings. Self-scaling HP, and when he gets to a certain point, can place unkillable on himself. Great in a tremor set, which was the stun set, and he just hits very hard. A little bit boring, but he scaled well in the alpha. How good he's going to be now, I don't know, but definitely something to consider. And then Artemis. Now, we did get a chance to see Artemis, and I think for me, she's potentially the second damage dealer I would go for. People might disagree with me on that. But her core attacks all enemies, increases the divinity by 1% for each enemy hit. But she attacks all enemies 3 times, so let's assume there's 4. So you're getting 12% divinity on the core, on top of whatever your proc is. That seems nice, okay. Doesn't do anything else, but it's still nice. And then her ultimate, just bring it up here, you attack one enemy, increase the damage inflicted by 10% for each enemy defeated. So as the fight goes on in like wave content, for example, it's gonna hit stronger. But the divinity generator, you gain 40 divinity and inflicting damage to an enemy, gain an additional percentage for each defeated enemy. So essentially, right, when you're damaging an enemy, you're double dipping the core. So the core hits gives you 12%. Then you're going to be gaining, what's that? 40 times 3 is 120. 3 times, 360. You're going to be getting around to this ultimate quite a lot. And then her passive imprint, after you defeat an enemy, your next attack will do increased damage. Like, she can potentially scale incredibly well her damage. Like, again, this is the imprints. This is like conservative, like, yeah, she could potentially hit very hard. And I love the synergy in her kit, which is why I'm putting her there as something to think about. So here we are then. We come to our personal past section down here. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that they are bad, but for me, they're not ones I'm looking for. We're starting with Pazuzu. Now, Pazuzu's core, he attacks all enemies with a 75% chance to place Corrupt. And if the target is aligned with order, he'll place like a fear on them. That's good, but the fear is very conditional. And so essentially, I say very conditional, like 50-50 chance. But Anubis does it on his core, and he also places initiative down. Like, out of the two, this is giving me guaranteed value. So, but that's just the cause in a vacuum. It's not the main reason Pazuzu's down here. We'll come on to that in a second. And Pazuzu's ultimate places a few debuffs. Some of them we're looking for in certain content. Others are quite niche. So, and the niche one is Curse for me, all right? Like, it's good, it decreases healing and barrier, but again, how often we're going to see that, I don't know. But the reason why he's down here, okay, is I think he is more valuable as an imprint, personally. Now, that might be a hot take for some, but that is my thoughts. His imprint says when an enemy gains a buff, you increase his turn meter by a percentage. It's 5% on the imprint, let's assume it's 10% on him. And if an enemy gains 3 buffs in one turn, this hero gains an extra turn. So that's going to allow him to cut in. I think having that on someone else is more valuable than having Pazuzu himself, personally. But for me, say he holds more value as an imprint, which is why he is down here. Cizin. however we're pronouncing it. This is one that Simon showed, but having read the Discord, I'm not sure he was supposed to show us, so it might change. But his core places like an AoE blaze, and his ultimate will activate blazes and acids. So he sort of reminds me of like a Theodore from Raid, for those of you who are familiar. That is very strong, especially in group content. Like we saw the hag in a video had like 5 totems, I think it was. So each time a blaze goes off, they're all taking damage, so you're going to be destroying their max HP. It's going to go. It's going to be bonfire night. Everyone's going to have a great time. But we've not seen acid anywhere in his kit. You would presume it's going to be based into his passive or his basic, but we don't know for sure. And if I want like an acid placer, I would just take Ramses early over Guan Yu, for example, or Lady Shock. So that's why he is a personal pass for me. He looks sick. Like, as a model, he looks awesome. But for me, he is a personal pass. Ra, for a similar reason. Very strong kit. He's got since his rework, he holds a lot more solo value with the defense down, the vulnerable. And he's placing a lot of blaze. But for me, just not what I'm looking for. Hell, incredible damage dealer, scales very well, and she is the queen of the desecrated daimyo dungeon, resurrecting the side ads to kill them again and make the boss never really be able to ult. You only need to do it once, and that Ascension dungeon is GG. But she is just a damage dealer, like for me. Well, that's why she's down here. She's a very good damage dealer, but she is down there for me. I probably rank her more highly than others. I think she's very good, and maybe I'd put her there, to be fair, just because I like her kit. I like the uniqueness of it as well. But yeah, she is there for me. Dracula, King of the Alphas, Bleed Machine, received another rework, or another hero to have received a rework recently, and I think his ult could hit very hard. But I'm thinking more broadly now. He'll be good in all of the bosses. But outside of that, am I going to use him? Will I value something else more? I don't know. Very good unit, but for me, a personal pass. Perun, all about turn meter reduction. He hits lots of times, reduces turn meter lots and lots. But I don't know if that's something I'm going to want to be hunting early on. Let me just remind myself what his imprint does. I've got it written down here somewhere. When they have their turn meter decreased, increase his turn meter. So he's going to be cycling turns a lot. You know, increasing his own turn meter to go again and decrease their turn meter. It could be good somewhere. But we don't know the locks and the keys. Maybe it's only good in arena. Who knows? But yeah, for me, not something I'm hunting, which is why he's down there. Mulan is just a damage dealer, essentially. She benefits from being vanished, places Hex and Drain, but again, just not something I'm looking for right now. Loki had a rework. I think he's very good as an opener, for perhaps in this like magical arena team I talked about, where you had Quetzalcoatl going first, then Loki placing his core, followed by a damage dealer, followed by Freya. He could potentially fill that role very nicely, but not something I'm hunting down early. Once again, quite a niche pick. Wang, we saw him places a random debuff on his core on one enemy. I don't like that. His ultimate places, is it lock passives, lock ultimates, something like that? Very strong, but again, just not something I'm wanting right now. And Hades looked cool, but his kit comes alive with Curse. Now, he doesn't have it Curse in his main abilities. He does have it on his passive. His imprint I'll throw on screen. At the start of the turn, he'll place Curse on one enemy with the highest attack. I don't like that it's one enemy. So to get real value out of it, you're going to need to bring someone else who places AoE Curse. Like a Freya, the two gods of the underworld working very well together. But standalone value seems limited to me unless I'm not seeing something. Let me know. And then we come down to the question marks, and something to add. with some of these question marks. Like, I've not seen anyone pull like any of these three yet in the quest game, so I don't even know if they're available. I'm just assuming they are because they are red, green, blue units. That's the other thing with Lamash 2, for example. I've not seen anyone grab them yet, so if you have, let me know. But yeah, question marks, we simply don't know anything about these lot down here. We know the passive of Lamash 2 and Fujin, but that's it. Fujin has reduced AoE damage on his imprint, so his passive is going to do the same. Will pair very well with the Fangshin Huaji weapon, which also decreases AoE damage. So he's going to be a defender. He's going to be up here somewhere in one of these two, but without knowing his kit, simply can't say. And the same goes for these three here. Now, I had Svarog before I got Ares, who's next to him, but from a vibe check, I've gone with Ares. But yeah, all of these four could potentially be up here, and maybe I end up redoing this list once we know all of the kits. But for now, they're just down here. And this lot are all ahead because they're all invokers and defenders. This lot down here are disruptors and slayers, so that's why they're down there. And that is it for my list. It has been a long one. I do apologise once again, but hopefully you have found this useful. But do bear in mind, this is just my opinion. The best thing to do is go off a vibe check. If you think something looks cool, take it. You know, do what you like. It's your life. Live it freely. I don't think taking any of these down here will brick your account too much, except for maybe Hades. But yeah, that's me. So thank you very much for watching. Take care. Look after yourselves. Work hard. But as always, play harder. I'll see you in another one soon. Cheers.